We now move to another different kind of artist, different kind of personality, but no less elegant, significant, and creative. We're going to hear from Catherine Cissé of Muijsenbergh, and I hope I said that correctly in Dutch. I have family who comes from Holland, and they happen to be watching right now. Who's the executive director of the Institute for Historical Justice and Reconciliation. This is an extraordinary organization that has engaged in peace and reconciliation work in such places as Darfur, Rwanda, Yugoslavia, and even the venue of the Middle East, which will become part of the subject of what we're going to be hearing about. Catherine Cissé is a lawyer, specializes in international law, and she actually heads the Institute, which is sponsored by the European Union, and a variety and benefits from the largest in the interest of a variety of other international organizations. Peace and coexistence even exists in the Brandeis campus, both in terms of a program and I think in terms of a reality. And the work that she's going to talk about today is one that I must say that interests me very particularly, as somebody who's been an academic in Israel before coming to Brandeis. We're in a variety of ways in our own classrooms, in which I can recall vividly a seminar in which I had two Bedouins, an Arab from the north, a left-wing kibbutznik, a right-wing immigrant from Russia, and a couple of other stereotypes. And the question was, how does one talk about anything with such a group? I must tell you is that after that experience, I find Brandeis a rose garden. It's the easiest place in the world. But I also learned that it could be done. And one of the most interesting examples I know of attempting to create this kind of real conversation between people who come from very different places is the book which she has recently published, or had published, and it's called Zoom In, Palestinian Refugees of 1948, Remembrances, Plitei 1948 B'Zikaron, with an interesting group of authors, Sami Adwan, Efrat Ben-Ze'ev, Menachem Klein, Ihab Salul, Tamir Sorek, Mahmoud Yazbak. Some of them I know, they're my friends and neighbors from back home in the northern Negev, where I learned from Dor, we have too many trees, but what can we do? And I welcome enthusiastically Cisse.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this very kind word. I deserve not even half of it. First of all, I'm not an artist. I wish I were an artist. Lawyer, dull people. But they are not as tough in Europe than on this side, in this country. So don't worry, you are safe. You are safe with me. First of all, I would like to thank the Ethics Center, and in particular Cynthia and Lee. We have been for several months together on Skype, talking, exchanging, and everything happened. I arrived here just one day before the storm, and so that was, it's a blessing to be here among you. It is with a lot of humility that I'm going to present you this book, which is a tentative, a project. What is most difficult for an outsider like me, I'm not Israeli, I'm not Palestinian, I'm French, a French mother, and I have a Senegalese father. So what do I know from the story, from the history, from the narratives? I know from my friends, I know from my travels, I know from my readings, but I will never dare to make a determination of what happened. What happened, it has to be written, and it's done by you and some of you here, by the parties concerned themselves. You cannot impose. I am a bit tired when I hear, transitional justice. What does that mean, transitional justice? I'm not against the concept, but first of all, what does it mean? When does it start? When does it finish? And we have seen so many examples of, a top-bottom approach. As very experts coming with a toolkit in a post-conflict society with, okay, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, judicial court, and it will be interesting to study the impact of these reconciliation mechanisms. I don't say that they are useless, no, but the fact, that very often they don't take into account the cultural, the context, and the people are not consulted. Sometimes it's a recipe for failure. So I think for outsiders, humility first. Of course, we have to make our homework, read, but again, so this project, but before talking about the project, I will make a very short introduction about the Institute. It's a non-profit organization established in 2004, but was part until 2008 of the Salzburg Global Seminar. And in 2008, it moved to the Netherlands. Guess where? To The Hague, the capital, the legal capital of the world. And so but we are not, by the way, a legal body. I am a lawyer. Some of my board members are lawyers, but we are not. We are sort of sui generis, I would say, institution at the crossroads of not advocacy, no, just because what I described earlier. But we are working with academics, but we're also working with artists, and we are working sometimes with youth and civil society leaders, not yet with governments, but we are open to these options as well. And what we try to do is to provide a neutral, serene, quiet forum for parties who have an expertise in the field of history or anthropology. We bring together opposing sides, and with the objective to achieve what we call shared narratives. I have to say what shared narrative is for us. It's not about to agree on everything, it's just impossible. It's to find, probably the most accurate expression should be sharing narratives. It's about bringing for the same event, all the various interpretations and all identities at stake. How do you do this? What we try to do is, this book is the result of this methodology, is to bring scholars, in the case, as we worked with Swiss scholars, Swiss Israeli Jewish scholars, and Swiss Palestinians, Arabs, on this project. There were a lot of disagreement. I don't want to lie to you. It was very difficult, painful. Even scholars, I thought, it was the war of narratives is much more violent than the physical war. Yes. So the process took several months, but today I talk about the result. So just also another, how does it work? I meant this. Yeah, we work in different parts of the world, so this spots. The book is published in 3 languages, as you can see. what makes sense to talk about the Palestinian refugees of 1948. When I said earlier, we are not there to discuss about the victims, who is the victims, who are the perpetrators. We are not there to discuss about legal matters. So in the group, after difficult discussions, we decided, we said, well, by the way, what do the third generation of Israeli Palestinians know about Palestinian refugees of 1948? How are we going to approach them without upsetting them? Because it's a very sensitive issue. So the decision was made to use archives photographs to capture the knowledge, the perceptions, the interpretations, the silences of these young people. Who are these young people? They were there's people that we interviewed. They were interviewed, by the way, by two young researchers, one Israeli Jew and one Palestinian Arab. We selected a certain number of universities, two in Israel and three in Israel, sorry, one at the University of Bethlehem. It's not mentioned in the book, but you can easily guess, that having Sally Adwan as an author. And you can also guess that going to Ramallah was not possible. We tried. We asked whether it would be possible to interview students from Dor Guez, but unfortunately it was not possible. So the methodology we choose. Sorry, I'm not used to speak with PowerPoint, so if there will be a gap between, I try to be disciplined and follow the order. So I talked about, the students, where they were from. Also, there were students from the diaspora, and students also living in the Netherlands, for instance, in Germany or here in the US. There were students also for mixed background. The choice now about the photographs, and I call the title Debating on the Pictures, because the pictures were selected by the group of scholars. We had, in the beginning, 120 pictures, mainly from the IDF archive, from the UN archive, from UNRWA. And that was, I think, one of the most difficult also stage in the project, is to choose which picture to select, which one will be appropriate. In a nutshell, the discussion was the following. If we want to talk about Palestinian refugees of 1948, and if we want to present pictures to Israeli Jewish students, it will be better to present more context pictures, less pictures of Palestinian refugees, and also pictures of Jewish refugees of 1948. And within the group, this triggered a lot of problems. All the pictures were adopted not either by consensus or by vote. And having 3 Israelis, 3 Palestinians, and I abstained. I was not, because I was an outsider. But for instance, there was one participant insisting to have a picture of the tent in Gaza, of the tent of Salafay. And why? Because he said, well, this is, the indirect. The situation of this 2006 camp is an indirect result of 1948 and the various waves of refugees. And we disagreed. We say this is a shortcut. This is, well, I say we, no. I have to, in the position that the group, I mean the majority of the group disagrees, said this is much more complex. So don't bring, pictures of today in this project. Another picture, which is the War of Independence apartment houses damaged during the Egyptian attack on Tel Aviv in 1948. There was also a debate. Was it, what was the role of other Arab armies in this process? And it's important to mention this. So this picture was not selected, but in the book, you will see later, there are pictures showing the bombing of a Jewish settlement and another one of a kibbutz. Just for the public, for the audience to understand that it is not black and white. There are many nuances. This picture also was a subject of controversy. And though that the contrast couldn't be more striking with a picture of your family. And again, in the group, the reactions were the following. This is scandalous. This doesn't at all represent the Palestinians. It's an orientalist, pure Orientalism, and other just say the opposite. No, it was also the reality. So it's important to show it. The group decided to keep this picture. Now we start the exercise. I'd like to involve you. Perhaps not on this picture, but the methodology followed was, when we showed to the students the pictures first without caption and then with caption. So we collected their comments before and after. So I'll let you. Can you read it or it's too small?
It's too small.
I don't want to inflict you my terrible French accent. Okay, I try. A college in Israel, female, 25 years old. This picture evokes wonderful feelings of coexistence that is hardly possible to see today. In the picture, we see two men, a Palestinian and an Israeli, with a sign of a new Israeli-Palestinian settlement. Why are you laughing? The Palestinian university female, 20 years old, and that's what she said. Pictures of Palestinians who are attempting to remove a Hebrew sign. It seems that the sign is standing on Palestinian agricultural land, or this sign has been put there to mislead Palestinians into thinking that they are mines, but actually this has been put there to steal the land from them. It shows steadfastness to end Israeli occupation. So you see within a short distance the various interpretations. Now the picture with a caption. Birth of a new settlement in Yakin. Oops. So our Jewish is a student who earlier who had not seen the picture. This is what now she said. The picture looks like a combination of building a new place and an Arab-Israeli settlement. I can't say for sure that the people in the picture are one Israeli and one Palestinian, but it could be. The photo looks old, but maybe it's just a trick in the photo. In any case, it seems terrific, a mixed settlement. Maybe it's Eliakim, the settlement many years ago. The Palestinian young student It's what now she wrote. It becomes clear that these two men are not Palestinians, but Jews, who are making their presence on Palestinian land without any fear or hesitation. They try to take control over the land by mighty force. I think it is very sad that Palestinian land is taken from the Palestinians by the Israeli army. No comment. So this is the picture I mentioned earlier. I will skip this one because I discussed, but perhaps no, it's interesting to read you some reactions. This is what the Palestinian University, there were more women interviewed than men, and it was deliberate it was not a gender issue, but we felt necessary to hear the voices of the young women raised in Palestine. This is, the Palestinians say, this is a situation we arrived at today. Destroyed houses which used to embrace families with grace and empathy. Families who were dreaming of security, stability, and love. These houses are not offering comfort anymore after they lost their people. These houses were bombed and will fall down. A house without people has no value. And this time, a Jewish student male from Haifa University. It looks like an abandoned village after the war of independence. It evokes sadness and compassion for the people who have just left their homes and who still hope to return at this stage. The sadness is also about the harsh conditions that await them. The Palestinian students, after seeing the caption, which is the picture is a view of kibbutz Negev destroyed by Egyptian air raids in 1948. You call this disaster upon yourselves. After you expelled refugees from the houses, now you feel as refugees have experienced feeling all the time. The Jewish student from Haifa said, I had some doubt about whether it was really an Arab village, as I wrote, because of the order and distance between the houses. With all the pain and difficulty, I'm happy to know that the fate of the kibbutz residents is much better than that of the Palestinian refugees. We'll skip this one. Let's see the clock. If we have more time, we will return. There is, yes. I wanted to ask you to comment this picture. Any volunteers? Yes?
I'm pretty sure I'm going to go. It reminds me sometimes of those war scenes, like if people are about to be hurt or they're, because I was going to say that maybe they're praying, but they don't, it looks almost like, it doesn't look like a comfortable action that they're doing, so I'm wondering if they're doing that against their will or if they are doing that in their will. That's why
Any other comment? Yes?
I would go off of the side that if they're doing something not towards their will, so they're not, like, they don't want to be doing that, that somebody, it's a way of showing power over other people for whatever reason.
Does it work? No?
Should I just talk louder?
Yeah, I stay here.
Okay. No, that they look like they are being subjected to some sort of power for some reason, whether it's whether they're being taken out or somewhere, or being just told to do that. I don't know why, but I would say that they are being instructed to do so by some figure of authority or someone who thinks they're
So, the suspense we have. First, let's share together the reaction first from a female student from Bethlehem University. I see a group of Palestinians against the wall. I understand that they are held by the Israeli army. The reaction of a Jewish student not from Haifa University, from college. I think they are Palestinian prisoners, terrorists, caught by the army before leaving for an operation or preparing one. The picture arouses sadness because it reminds us of the time of the Holocaust, when the Jews were in the same position and the Nazis shot them one after another. Perhaps they are not Arab terrorists, but it's a massacre of Sabra and Shatila. In any case, the old debate between Muslim Arabs and Jews in this country is sad, long and bloody. Therefore, alongside the sadness, I cannot completely identify with them. That is, maybe they are aiming to do something bad, or even worse, plan to kill, murder Jews who are my friends, acquaintances, and family. The legend. Sorry, it's a mistake. It's a point for me. It's not foremen, but soldiers of Palma being searched for weapons by the British in 1948. The reaction of the Palestinian student after listening to the caption. I think that the British interfere in people's business and search for arms in order to support the Jews. The Jewish student, female, the contradiction is striking. At first I thought they were Arabs. And I think that's what they are trying to demonstrate to me. That is the same picture of people standing, humiliated and helpless against the war. And it is connected to events that occurred in the land of Israel, but involving the Palma and not Arabs. I associate them with heroism, while others feel different emotions. This is my reality and my past as a Jew. And I'm really sad seeing and knowing that the picture is of members of the family. I'll stop here, but the whole book is about this. I'd like to draw some tentative conclusions with you on, we cannot generalize, but when you read the whole book, there is a pattern of answers. You can. So, some pictures, some comments show a lot of ignorance about the history from both sides, about mixing some dates, some events. This is, I think, a matter of great concern. Second, it seems that for the Palestinian students, there is a collective approach, and it's we and us, them. For the Israeli Jew students, it's more, not always, but it's more individual answers. And I hope you will disagree with me, because I hope we can have a strong debate on that. And then on the issue of empathy, because the other project is about to foster empathy, mutual understanding about the other. And there is obviously empathy on both sides. but there is a kind of self-censorship, I felt, by reading their reactions. So, who wants to react and add something to this project?
And this group of 6, 3 Palestinians and 3 Israelis, having gone through this painful process for a period of several months, was there any change among them?
Let me answer you by picture. Well, the group is also, we worked also with 2 of the historians, this is Adel Mana and this is Moti Golani. This picture is in Brussels, and the group became quite unified, and friendship, maybe the word is exaggerated, but something happened. More, I think, more respect, more understanding.
Would that be useful to bring Palestinian and Israeli students together to confront the same pictures? Was that popped up by the interviews? You interviewed them separately in Haifa or in universities in the West Bank?
That would be fantastic. It can be done, yes.
Just to understand, the intention of this project was to take these pictures and interview and create a process with them for the students, or the students were part of a process to create the book, which is now used to something else?
No. There are 2 layers. The first layer is the interviews. And the students, they interviewed these, but they were not part of the selection process of the photograph. The photographs were selected and by the scholars themselves. The questionnaire, the basic questionnaire, was elaborated by the scholars themselves. The second part of the book are the comments of the comments by the scholars themselves. There's also, in the book, a shared narrative between Menahem Klein and Mahmoud Yazbak on the remembrances in Hailut and Malul. And what is interesting is the process that they seem, they have written together this chapter, and they reach a full agreement, which is exceptional.
So now, just to understand, the book is now being used just as not as in itself a healing process or a reconciliation process. No, it's just to understand.
This book has been also designed with the purpose of fostering more reconciliation. I was advised not to use this word. And not only in this region, but in the Balkans, there is a kind of allergy to the word reconciliation. So the people prefer dialogue, empathy, and I accept it.
I think it's so powerful, the re-witnessing of the past, and then the way that the students, their own assumptions are brought back to them. And I wonder, if you had ideas about the next, if you prodded past that, what if they talk about?
I'm not sure that I understood your question.
Because it seems like you're making the thinking visible to the students of their own assumptions or misconceptions. And then it's very clear to them in a way. But so that's 2 steps. the third step? Did you ever talk about what you might ask them next, or show them, or do with them?
The next step would be that they will not. It's a small group. It's very so it's to broaden the project to a larger group, and also to include more pictures and different pictures. So I think what is interesting, there was one question at the end of the questionnaire. Would you like to receive a copy of the book? Most of the Palestinian students said yes. Most of the Jewish students said no. So the challenge for us now would be to demonstrate that this project was worthy for both sides, and perhaps to unlock the issue and bring in more comparative examples on what happened in other countries, but that's an option.
Catherine, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how this was presented to the Israeli and the Palestinian public after it was published, and what the reactions were.
A few seminars, workshops were organized in the region and also in Europe by us, but also by the authors themselves. We don't have property. Some of them use them in public events, in lectures. But mainly what we did, the Institute, we organized public events in Jaffa, in Jerusalem, not in the West Bank, for the reason I mentioned, in the case of Ramallah, but we hope that we will manage to disseminate the book. And we're also hoping now to organize, to mount an exhibition on the same principle.
I actually want to ask a question of some of the students here, based on this, because some of the students here participated with me, and I described it to you last night, in this facilitated conversation of Dor Guez's exhibit, in a context that supported people to share their feelings and their own stories. So I think Ilan's idea of bringing Palestinian and Jewish Israeli students together, let's say there were an exhibit, to witness the exhibit, I think the question is, what kind of support could students be given to understand, to reflect on their own meaning-making process? And because it's very revealing, and it would be, you need to really support people in order for them to be able to feel okay, engage in conversation. And I'm just wondering if any of the students here or any of the others who participated in these workshops have an idea of whether that would be a good idea to do, and what kind of process might support students to be able to have a very productive conversation based on reflecting on their own meaning making and then witnessing each other's. Very complex process that's here.
But I think we need specialist mediators, educators with us across this society.
Yeah. Anyone here have ideas about that?
Thank you.
Sorry. No, I was just waiting to hear. Are there any gallery guides here at the museum? We use a lot of discussion-based methodologies, and Dabby again. And I was just wondering what you all think of using visual thinking strategies in this kind of situation. Visual thinking strategies is a pedagogical method for looking at works of art, looking at any image really, that is based on 3 questions. What's happening in this picture? What do you see that makes you say that? What more can you find? And you do a lot of paraphrasing, and you keep asking. And then what do you see that makes you say that is very important, because it asks people to provide evidence that they find in the image to support their perspective. And it's also it's great for people having really different approaches to the same image, because the facilitator remains very neutral, and it just gets paraphrased, and people work it out themselves through conversation. And I think it can be a really useful technique for this when you have multiple perspectives on the same photograph, and people can start talking about clothing and all kinds of little details, like Dor did with his pictures, that would illuminate different layers of meaning, and then you could eventually add in the caption and continue the conversation, so that it's more, so that they all have to hear each other, right? Without somebody saying yes or no at any particular point. Anyway, what are the students, Nicole and Aziz, there are a couple people here who are learning BTS. I think that's true. Which one is that?
Oh my God, okay.
Yeah.
I do think that, like, in some ways it's very interesting, because I think they were being asked to employ BTS, but they were not like, they were not looking at the image as like, what do you see? Because and I've seen that that's like something that we also have to deal with when we are like working with the individuals in that. And like, I haven't done the Dor Guez exhibit, but like other pieces, and people are like, oh well, this is like, this is what's going on, instead of like, this is what we're seeing. And I think that difference is something that like would really be very interesting, because people are obviously bringing their baggage and what they've been told and what they feel like they know what's going on, rather than like what they're actually seeing, because that itself leads to very specifically different conclusions.
Yeah. So also, when you were saying that people are conversing with each other, right? So I think that's the most important part. Where here it seems like people are conversing with themselves, so before and after process, as opposed to with the other side. So I think in BTS there'll be a group learning, whether it's 2 people or 6 or more.
And I know that it can be difficult bringing these people together, and it's a difficult process because of the context and the history behind this. And the wonderful thing with BTS is you can use it with works that don't have that historical context, kind of like what Aziz was alluring to. So I wonder what the interviews were like when you were showing these photographs to the students, if you were saying these are from Palace, like if these are from this area.
No,
it was just like
nothing. Just what do you see? What does it evoke? But there was no.
Okay, so there was no like this is.
There was no leading question.
So it could have been from anywhere.
Yes.
It wasn't even told that they were from an archive in the area.
It was told that we told that they were photo archives.
Okay.
Do you have an idea of what happens next? By which I mean, what you've proven is that when people view photographs such as these, they come with a great deal of baggage. They already come informed, or so they think. And then they discover that what they think is not actually or necessarily true. That's an important revelation. But then what happens? What would the next step be? Heaven forbid reconciliation. Because once is empathy an attainable goal through this process? So then one learn history. Does then one learn somebody else's story? What are the strategies for moving it beyond this extraordinary moment of discovery?
As I said earlier, the exhibition would be one possibility. The other possibility would to come back, to get back to these students and show different reactions and engage, as you mentioned, in a conversation. But also, but it's not our role, to fill the lacuna. in the historical knowledge of the events. That would be to work with history teachers, primary, perhaps working more on having a portal, a website. But there are many options, but at this stage, we are still at the preliminary stage, but we definitely want to continue.
How would you interpret, or how common would you find that in other parallel situations, what you described, in terms of the question of what's the next step, if there was an interest from the Palestinians to see the book and see that conversation in a sense, which is that either empathy or putting their own revelation in a context, revelation, but disinterest on the part of the Israeli Jews to receive the book and then in some ways maybe to look at those same things or look at themselves in that larger context. Is that like a common, in terms of like who has more power in the situation, would that be a common outcome, or is that those people?
Obviously the pictures chosen access raised what I call collateral damages in the project. This is not we just wanted the opposite, but we can infer from the decision from the reply from the Israeli students that they were not happy with the pictures. So again. We have to improve each time and persevere. That's what I can say.
Thank you.
Thank you.